By November next year, we will be drawing very close to the next general election, and every conversation, every discussion will be focusing on what will be or will not be in that election. Now, we want to zero in a little bit more into the issues of politics, and we have someone who we believe should know and knows actually, having been involved in that game for a while. Senator Adeyeye, thank you so much for giving us your time on special interview.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Some people actually believe that the issue of governance is sometimes sacrificed when the conversation center or look through elections, particularly just right after one election, conversation for the next election begins. What do you think about this? Do you think that governance is paid, is given less attention, whereas politics takes all the attention from people?
I think both has to go hand in hand, pari passu, because you cannot, every day you play politics, even while you are governing, you still play politics. Because even the art of governance has a lot to do with politics. You want to satisfy various interests, various groups within the polity. So the very act of governance involves politics every day. The decisions you make has political implications. If you want to decide, if you decide to tie a particular road, it has political consequences. If you make a choice over another, it has political consequences. So I don't see people try to compartmentalize politics and governance into different spheres. Both cannot be separated. Governance is politics, politics is governance. Both go hand in hand, both have to work by, you have to undertake both pari passu. And that is why those politicians who are in government, when you win an election and now you are in government, you have to realize that every day you keep on playing politics while you are governing. Because the act of governance, the very decisions you are making also is part of politics.
But when politics or satisfying certain interests or supersede, effort to satisfy certain interests supersede the common good of the people, it becomes a problem.
It's not a problem. I don't see it that way. This is very theoretical, and a lot of people in the academia, they always think like that. But those of us who are in politics, we believe that satisfying various interests, that's the essence of why you are there. You think, okay, maybe, and that is why dictatorship has never advanced society, has never led to any rapid socio-economic development anywhere in the world, whether you are talking of communism or military rule. And if you look at America, the competition between the defunct Soviet Union and America, the reason why America won in the final analysis was because of democracy. America was able to at least align its politics with the interests of its people. Whereas where you have an oligarchy taking decisions that has nothing to do with what the masses are actually thinking, there's likely to be that gap between the people in government and the governed. And the society becomes dysfunctional. And ultimately, there is conflict, there is chaos, and even collapse of the society. And that's what we witnessed in the former Soviet Union.
Does that explain some of the things that we hear when elected officials, particularly those in executive position, say that these particular people did not vote for me? For instance, in a state, a particular senatorial zone did not vote for the governor, so to say, and then the governor, it's believed that those people will get less attention from the government.
Only a stupid politician would think like that. Because ultimately, you even want to win those people over to your side. Like the biblical parable by Jesus Christ. If you have 100 sheep and one get lost, you will leave the 99 and go and pursue the other one to bring it to the fold, so that you have your 100 sheep. So I do not think it's reasonable for any politician to say because you did not get vote from a particular side. Once you are elected, you are governor of the entire place. You are the chairman of the local government of the entire area. You must see everybody as every person within that constituency as people you have to take care of their interests. You do not exclude, you do not discriminate. You do not say, okay, this set of people, because they did not vote for me, therefore I am not going to do anything for them. That will even be illegal. That will be wrong, morally and legally. Morally, in the sense that, in any case, the resources you are allocating by virtue of your position also belongs to them. They are stakeholders in it. They are part of the owners of those resources. You have only been given a temporary opportunity to allocate those resources on behalf of society. So it will be morally wrong for you to then exclude them. Once you are elected, you take care of everybody. Everybody. But what we are saying is that there are competing interests in society, and a government has to prioritize. You have to prioritize. And the process of prioritizing, politics comes into it. Okay. The most vociferous political voices, the most important political groups, or whatever you say, are likely to get more demand, make more demands, and they're likely to get more allocation to their own side. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay, as long as they're part of society.
All right. Anambra State governorship election has come and gone, and before that election, there was so much fear and anxiety. It came, and a lot of people have been rating INEC high in terms of making efforts, in terms of the effort to have a credible process in the election. One of the things INEC introduced in that election was the bimodal voter accreditation system. That wasn't the first time exactly, but the first time it was used in a governorship election. There were criticisms, particularly where it failed in some areas, but Osun and Ekiti is coming soon. What would you recommend or suggest to INEC to do, taking from the election in Anambra, to do in ensuring that the election in Ekiti and Osun are hitch-free?
I believe INEC must have learned some lessons. Everything, when you are making innovations like that, you are introducing new systems or new products, of course you will have this kind of teething problems. Some of these issues will come up, really. That's natural. That's the first time they are using it in the governorship election. And of course, they saw the problems. And I believe that they will be correcting those problems now. By the time the Ekiti election comes up next year, Ekiti and elections, those corrections could have been made. Because Ekiti election is at least 7 months away, Osun is about 8 or 9 months away. That's the ample time for them to sit down and rectify those errors and make those corrections. I believe they are moving in the right direction, really. We cannot avoid technology in this country. Ultimately, because of the nature of our people, ultimately, deploying technology is what will save the system. If we say we want to shy away from it and we leave it to the discretion of people, I tell you, we will not have elections in this country. And to me, INEC has made great progress from 1999 to this point. They have made good. I participated in almost all elections. In fact, I participated in all elections, not almost. And I have seen it from 1999 to now. I'm not saying I'll be contesting all those elections, but I have been active participant, voting, yes, campaigning, and seeing the whole thing. And I see that our elections are getting better and better. We have not reached perfection. No country has ever reached perfection, but we're on the right track. And I believe INEC is doing a good job. Well, in Anambra, they have brought in new technology. I have not seen it personally, but I think we should allow INEC to make their trial and errors, and then to fix the problem along the line. And I believe they will do that. By the time we have the election, I expect them to have made adequate corrections.
Okay. In October, you are reported to have said that the concept of power rotation is between the North and the South. That's what you were quoted to have said, indicating that you endorse zoning. Are you aware that some people believe that zoning is archaic and shouldn't be something that will be discussed or part of our polity in this modern time?
I don't share the view of those people. In a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, highly diverse society like ours, you need to give everybody a sense of belonging. You need to avoid the perception that some people have been specially chosen to run the affairs of the country, whilst other people are completely marginalized. So you need to give everybody some level of, reasonable chance to aspire to the highest office in the land, or to even any office. And that is why I absolutely support the idea of rotation or zoning, whatever you want to call it. Power should rotate. at least at this time, our democracy is extremely young. Even Nigeria as a nation is a young nation, just about 60-something years
Of independence.
of independence.
Okay.
Yeah. The British, even the British brought us together. Amalgamation took place in 1914. That's not less, that is just about a century plus. Some nations have been existing for thousands of years. China, India, a lot of countries. So we are a very young country. Our democracy is extremely young, and we need, and there are a lot of centrifugal forces trying to put this country apart. We have seen it in recent times. The Nigerian unity is not yet guaranteed, is not yet taken, cannot yet be taken for granted. So in that kind of situation, you need to give everybody that perception that they are not inferior to another set of people, that they are first-class citizens in their own country too. That's why I support rotation. Zoning. Now, the president of Nigeria is from the north. By 2023, he would have completed 8 years. I believe that, yes, it will be the turn of the South to produce the next president. There are so many things involved.
Have you considered the debate, or have you heard the argument of some people that President Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria for 8 years? He's from the South, and Umar Musa Yar'Adua from the North. His tenure was truncated by, forces beyond human control, and it ended in less than 3 years. Goodluck Jonathan took over, another president from the South, and had not less than 5 years. Then with the return of the current president, that if power rotates to the South, the North would have been shortchanged. Have you heard that argument?
That argument is poor.
Have you heard it?
I have some people say it,
okay.
But to me it's very poor. It's not logical. What we are saying is an extended period of time. Obasanjo ruled for 8 years, and then there was a break. It went to the North. Unfortunately, President Yar'Adua died. That is beyond human control, as you said. And then Jonathan came in and ruled for 5 years. It was an attempt of Jonathan to extend that by 4 years, making 9, that made some people to say that they were ready to tear the country apart if power will not shift to the North. But now to imagine that you will now have power for a very, very long time, a elongated period of about 16 years in one region, I think that is totally unacceptable.
That is if the current president is succeeded by another president.
Another president.
Okay. Is that what?
Over 108 years, you are adding, but it was not in a stretch. The 5 years of Jonathan and Obasanjo's 8 years was not as a stretch. There was a break of the Yar'Adua issue. And now you have Jonathan after President Buhari after Jonathan's 5 years. We are saying that after these 8 years, that should be at least another break for this power to come to another region, another zone of the country. But to imagine that we will now have 16 years at a stretch like that, honestly, is going to create a lot of psychological problems of serious, very serious perception of marginalization. And a lot of things would have gone wrong. Too bad. If we are making mistakes, we would have been entrenched in that mistake, that to make corrections will become very difficult. So in a nation like this, our unity is extremely fragile, and she must not be taken for granted, like I said. We need to give that perception, to have that perception that it is not the birthright of some people to continue to rule like that.
Okay, you are the leader, or you're the chairman of the Southwest Agenda, which, taking the argument, the debate over zoning further, you are saying that the Southwest should produce the next president. Is that what the Southwest Agenda stands for?
Absolutely, that's what it stands for. I am not saying, SWAGA, Southwest Agenda, we are not saying that other zones of the South. We recognize the fact that we have 3 zones in the South. The Southwest, the Southeast, the South-South. We recognize that fact. But we are not saying that those other 2 zones do not have the right to take a shot at the presidency. No, we are not saying that. They have the right. We are saying zone it to the South. Then any of the zones in the South can compete for it. And the reason is that what is generally agreed as of this moment by Nigerian leaders and politicians is that power should rotate between the North and the South. People have not generally agreed to the principle of microzoning to the various geopolitical zones, because that one is very complicated. Because if you now say, okay, the North, it should be be on the basis of geopolitical zones. It's likely to create a little bit of more tension, because some people will think their rights or their opportunities are being abridged somehow. Because we talk of Northwest now, it will mean 8 times 5, 40 years before we come back to the Northwest. Psychologically, anybody born in the Northwest, who is about 30 years now, we think, okay, by the time he's coming back to me, I'm over 70-something years.
So how would you explain
but
it
the thing is, let it rotate between the North and the South to create a feeling of a balance, to say, okay, everybody has equal chance. I mean, to make it, to give the perception that everybody has the right to this thing. So, but to do microzoning, people have not agreed on that. And therefore, that is why when we realize that this thing will come to the South, if we adhere to the principle of rotation, which I think Nigeria must adhere to for its own survival, then the Southwest has equal right, like any of the zones in the South, to compete for the presidency.
If it will be agreed across the table over conversation that power should rotate between the North and the South, given, wouldn't it be necessary to also agree among the 3 zones, the 3 geopolitical zones in the South, that you take turn one after the other in vying or being allowed or being supported to vie for that position?
That's not an unreasonable thing to do, but the reality of the reality is that each of the zones would still like to compete. We are talking of politics. Once you say this thing is coming to this area, everybody wants to believe I have the right to it. And the zones are not equally well positioned in terms of the personnel, the personality that can actually not go for it. They are not equally positioned. The opportunities are not equal. But it is fair enough if we say it is coming to the South. So, well, that is if we can agree at it on the round table to say, okay, it's coming to the South among us in the South. This is what we think. But we also must realize one point. Whatever decision you are taking in the South must be agreeable to those in the North. Because there will still be the election in this country. There must be election. And everybody has the right to vote. And if the South is presenting a candidate that is not agreeable to the other sections of the country, they will not accept it. So because they have the right, they are stakeholders. Everybody will support the election.
Does equity have anything to do with politics? Equity?
Of course, equity has a lot to do with politics. But that is to be determined by the electorate. Electorate is to determine what is equitable and what is not equitable. Okay. In the circumstances of Nigeria today, the vast majority of people, electorate in Nigeria, believe that it is already equitable if it is rotating between the North and the South. Don't forget that President Adeyeye was from the Northwest. As a matter of fact, from the same state as President Buhari. And yet, people in the North did not feel that, okay, it's not equitable for them if the presidency again was going to consider.
Maybe it was used as a compensation for
it was not used as a compensation.
For the death of the previous.
It was not used as a compensation. If you are talking of compensation, then you go to Yar'Adua political family to pick somebody. President Buhari and Yar'Adua never saw eye to eye in politics. They were different. They were diametrically opposed to each other. They were different angles of politics. So if you were going to compensate for Yar'Adua's untimely death, you would have then reached out to those who belong to his political family in Katsina State. Okay,
just tell us in plain language what you stand for. Because when you talk about Southwest agenda, you've actually taken a position. That's what it means. That apart from beyond the conversation of having the presidency come into the South, you are saying it should be Southwest. Is that exactly what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That is implied.
Okay.
When we talk about Southwest agenda, it's implied that we of the Southwest have this agenda to bring the presidency down to the Southwest. Simple. That's what SWAGA stands for.
And it's equitable.
Absolutely equitable.
After 8 years of President Obasanjo.
Absolutely equitable. After 8 years of President Obasanjo, we have now had how many years that the thing has left the South as a whole and even the Southwest. Don't forget that South has also had 5 years.
5 years. What about the Southeast?
Well, the Southeast, we are asking them to compete. Politics never serve a la carte. You make a bid for it, you struggle for it. Nobody sits in the South, and then you come and offer him power there. That's why you say politics never serve a la carte. You have to demand for it. You have to make a show for it. Look, our forefathers were not sleeping and hoping that the British will one day pack their load and then end colonialism. We needed to struggle to end colonialism. That is it. Apartheid, did apartheid stop on its own? People struggled to put an end to apartheid. The same way in politics. This thing we are talking now, power must rotate between the North and the South. If we, all of us in the South, sit and go to our houses and sleep, do you think anybody is coming to offer it to you? The Northerners will continue to hold you on to power. You have to demand for it. I am a witness as one of the people who participated in the ADECO movement in this country. I know that was one of the reasons, our agitation was one of the reasons why when the Absalami government came into power, they decided that, yes, the two presidential candidates of the two parties must come from this area, because they know that it was not going to be easy if that was not done. In the interest of the unity of the country, they have to do that. Now, I am saying that if any son in the South is so desirous of having the presidency, then it's not for us to go and beg them. They should also come out
and negotiate.
Campaign. And try to woo others to them.
Okay.
Because don't forget that even if all of us in the South decide today that we are ceding it to one particular area, and then that area brings somebody that's not acceptable to everybody, nobody is going to vote for him, because this thing must be stamped by election. It is election that will stamp that your negotiation.
Okay, it's understood clearly. But one of the things that dominate conversation lately or recently is the new amendment, or the amendment to the Electoral Act, demanding or stipulating direct primary for the emergence of candidates. Some people have criticized it, saying that it's going to be very cumbersome. Some say it's going to be very expensive. Others say it's going to be a very transparent process that would ensure that whoever becomes the candidate of the party will be coming from the minds of the majority of the people. Where do you stand on this? How do you see this?
I stand unequivocally, let me just be honest, I stand with the idea of direct primaries. This democracy must keep on growing. And part of it is there must be internal democracy within the political parties. Up to this moment, there is no internal democracy in our political parties. American political system that we are copying, because we must not shy away from admitting that fact, that this is our democracy modeled 100% after that of America. Without America is what the country we try to copy. Now, in their system, they started by having party bosses deciding who will hold party offices. If you look at the American political history, party bosses, you are the boss of the party in Chicago, the boss of the party in Los Angeles, they meet and say, okay, this is the presidential candidate. Over time, it evolved into people demanding that, no, this is not democratic. Let some of us also be involved. Then they try some forms of primaries, collegiate systems. But today, every member of all the political parties vote in their primaries. Even in some states, you can cross party line to go and vote in the other party's primary. So they have democratized it. If they had not done so, it is possible that some of those who had become president lately, particularly in this century, people like J.F. Kennedy, would never have tasted it. Being a Catholic, and America being a majority Protestant country, they never imagined that Kennedy would become president. And those party bosses who were mostly Protestants would never have considered a person like Kennedy for the presidency of America. So what I'm saying is that to democratize it, to make everybody, we need to get everybody involved. And this democracy starts within the parties. It must start within the parties. Hitherto, this so-called indirect system, this delegate system, I mean, let's face it, is that democracy? It's pure dictatorship, manipulation.
Okay.
And fraught with a lot of corruption.
Where would the cost, because some people's concern is that it's going to be expensive. Is it now the responsibility of political parties to bear the cost of their primaries 100%? Or is INEC coming in any way at any point?
Let me tell you, it's not expensive.
Okay.
We need to be reasonable. It's not expensive. INEC conducts elections in polling units. This election will only take place in one location in every ward. And don't forget that in some wards, you have up to 15 polling units. So in terms of personnel and logistics, it's not a challenge for INEC. It's not a serious challenge for INEC.
Would it be? That's what I'm asking.
But in terms of, when you talk of the finances of the political parties, I have been saying it because I have been involved at the higher levels of running political parties. And I know the finances are not exactly what it should be. It's opaque. In the sense that it's clouded in secrecy. There's no transparency in the finances of the political parties. You will ask people who are running for governor to come and obtain forms for over 20-something million naira. In some states, 20 people will come out, 30 people will come out. You look at the number of, look at the amount of money you generate. How much do you spend for the primaries? And so what happened to the rest of the money? The money that people have used to obtain form ordinarily is supposed to be used to run the primaries, the primary election. And I believe if you adhere to that, there is enough money in terms of the money generated from the sale of forms to conduct those primaries.
Okay.
So it's not expensive if the thing is properly managed. And in any case, what price is it too expensive? If we say it's too expensive to run democracy, then go for dictatorship. If we are saying it is expensive to conduct elections, INEC will vote billions for INEC to come and run our election, then go back to military now. So that argument does not hold water. If it will involve greater expenditure, then vote money for it, and let the political parties have a democracy within themselves. Let the system be more democratized within the political parties.
The takeaway here is that you stand for internal democracy.
I am for internal democracy in the political parties.
You're also
for direct primaries.
Yes, and you're also for advancement in all the electoral process, bringing in innovations that will make it better.
Exactly, I stand for that. Ultimately, even these direct primaries within political parties may have to be conducted electronically.
That's a fine place to drop it. Thank you so much for sparing your time to be with us on special interview today. And we hope, because it seems the conversation is just opening up, but time is not our friend. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you for having me.
And to you that watched, we appreciate that you did. Let's do it again. Thank you for watching.